Democracy means we, the people, have declared by our agreement called the Constitution that the law governing this whole nation, including its employees in government, has been defined. Accordingly, even the worshippers of death, as is the religion called evolution, declare the smallest change can cause a completely different future to erupt. As viewed by the image which is behind me, even a tiny miscalculation or a few degrees temperature lower will destroy life. The university error and failures and fantasies are creating enormous changes to our world. Reality now demands we must make our own changes. The question most perplexing to society is, how do we control ourselves, protect ourselves, and create a blessing to ourselves without leaders who corrupt this purpose for themselves? The answer comes in three parts. It is the law, which controls and creates society through the courtroom enforced. It is control over the currency that allows people to collude and conspire to take more for themselves. It is the ability to collect more that is ultimately unfair to the rest of society, that gives power to people to corrupt themselves. Solve these three things, and governing is simply a relationship of what people will allow as freedoms for each other. So let's solve the law, as is consistent with evidence already in force, the most visible of which is the Ten Commandments from the Bible. Keep it short, keep it simple, use language that cannot be misinterpreted, and don't make laws that are not required. The U.S. constitutional amendments are similar in construction. They no longer work for us because traitors have undermined them with rules, thereby evicting the Constitution itself from our courtrooms, ending democracy by instilling or installing the university knows best. That is treason, and can be contested under First Amendment redress of grievances, laws which are already in effect, which means we the people are legally entitled to take our employees we entrusted with government by their sworn oath to put the Constitution first and above all else. Evidence proves this is not so. The consequence of that is we the people have a legal right to investigate and examine all appropriate facts by demanding answers that shall not be denied. There is no personal right to refuse. This is about our nation, not your personal wishes. You swore to work for our nation, not yourself. We have the law, First Amendment redress. It is our guaranteed right. We have the ability to enforce that Constitution because we, the people, own this nation, and we are its policing force, its military, its courtroom, and every facet of power to the people that democracy provides, which is everything is ours as a nation, not as an individual. The nation is the Constitution. The Constitution is the agreement among all people who are citizens here that this describes our ways, decides our future, and determines both the freedoms and responsibilities of us all. Thereby it is the legal description of the nation itself, along with its two other creating documents, the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence. All three justify and create the United States of America. There is no other. That includes the U.S. Supreme Court, which is now accused of treason because it leads the march or refuses the duty to protect the Constitution, our rights, our freedoms, our duties as citizens of our nation, that no employee decides for the nation. The law is the Constitution. The Constitution, therefore, decides for the nation. The law that governs all law is the Constitution. Every form of decision by our employees is governed by the Constitution itself. That's our democracy as explained in the Constitution. We, the people, have the right to change that language. Our legislators should no longer have so. because we now have the communication required to do so for ourselves. That means instead of voting for someone to vote for me, I must and I will vote on the law and the reality of society as governing means for myself. We can decide, as is consistent with our two elements of evidence, the Ten Commandments and the amendments of the U.S. Constitution. If you get the law right, the first time especially, then it needs no other decision, no other vote for centuries or more. Do you understand? Governing ourselves means we use our vote to create the law which governs us. Nobody else will be allowed to do so. Only the people themselves in broad strokes that control every issue and are then metered out in a courtroom where the little issues can be decided preliminary to our vote. That also means we throw out the old law to be governed by the new law. That new law will then be taught in every classroom throughout the nation and learned without flaw, so that we do in fact become a true democracy of the people as life allows, because we hold the law in our own possession. It's a very big difference than the way it is today, when leaders and lawyers rule us. When we have the law ourselves, we own the nation. When we don't, we are told what to do like little children or slaves. To construct truth, as is necessary, it is absolutely necessary to judge the judge. They have proven unlawful and without restraint, as democracy requires it to be. So says nearly every lawsuit provided on my sites, www.justtalking5.info. by James Frank Osterbur. That was me. The need is to investigate, if you so desire, what these lawsuits were. Regardless of what is old, however, what is new means to ensure democracy stays under our control by judging those whose job it is to obey the Constitution and provide what the Constitution declares is ours. A look at what that is found in the lawsuits I provide. Those judges and lawyers, etc., who fail the grade are dismissed or penalized accordingly. They have no right to stay until they die. That is something they gave themselves. It is not a constitutional precept. It doesn't exist. They stay during good behavior. That's all, according to the Constitution. Very big difference. Every trial is judged by every participant in that trial. Every trial is open to public review except such cases as are extremely personal to children, potentially to rape victims if it is absolutely essential. Everything else is an open book and an open court. Policing is best done by those with enough courage to accept the risks and the realities of that work and within constitutional freedoms. It means without being aggressive unless needed to be. That also includes the use of not less than 4 rubber bullets, which should include a chemical agent for identification purposes. The last 2, a chemical agent with tear gas or something that is useful to aid in submission. And what is fair is then decided in a courtroom as best as possible. When a jury is needed, the jury shall do its constitutional duty, which is to ensure that the courtroom itself has been fair to all parties, as is the penalty fair to all parties, by applying that reality and that penalty as if their own lives or someone they loved were on trial instead. Freedom means you can't tell me what to do unless there is cause to believe true harm may erupt for someone else. Every participation or partition of society, such as this little village or that, shall decide for itself who can or cannot police them. Every partition of society shall decide what the standards they want to be met by a policeman or a woman is. For themselves, they have that right. Every partition of society shall review carefully the tragedy of what university knows is, and its creation of the predator pack in policing, whereby the intent is to kill like all predators do. That ain't policing. And the infection of universities such as this must be removed. We add in world law because it is absolutely necessary. The removal of all weapons of mass destruction peacefully by establishing through the people of every nation the rules and the laws which shall govern our leaders. Any leader which fails to obey our world-chosen law shall be brought to justice in a world court, in open view for all the people of the world to see. We have that right. We are equal to every leader. They are not greater than we are. We are all equal. We have a right. Weapons of mass destruction will be entirely removed from every nation without exception. Nobody gets to refuse that truth. Let the world itself prove this will be so. They can't stand against us all. And even if something bad happens, we at least tried to stop the complete destruction of a world, which is coming. This world policing governs leaders rather than nations. That is, world policing by our laws as humanity on earth. We decide. This type of law shall establish the rights, the realities, and the duties of every leader across the world. That world policing shall go to get these leaders for trial, and they will not fail. When faced with extreme force in that reality, a reward shall be provided to whosoever kills that leader that will not obey the law of this world, and they will then go freely to live within any country they desire, for removing what is a public human vermin from the earth. Obey the law are words for leaders to be heard, not spoken. You obey the law and accept the rules of life that we give you to follow, understanding we, the people, have rights too, or you will be punished accordingly by we, the world. Currency is the social backbone of society. Therefore, whenever anyone destroys it, they are actively committing treason against that nation. Reality means when I get what I paid for, because if not, then I'm treated as a slave. And when provided only worthless numbers for a life sacrificed with my time, that is completely unfair and should never be done. To keep it from being done, 3 things are required. The currency of every nation shall be tied to its population according to census, and verified by other nations for the sake of certainty. That means every person gets to know where they stand in relation to the other's money-wise. Because divided equally, then there is only this much per person for us all. So you will know, because if you don't get that much as is equal, then someone else is getting more, because someone else must be taking less. That is reality under truth. But there's also security, because you know what is then real in society itself. Every loan, etc., will adjust accordingly, because the ability of a bank or other to multiply their investment funds will be determined by business. Business means I did do what you asked me to do correctly. Now you will pay me the agreed upon or fairly adjusted price. Where there is business, there is the potential for growth. When a business grows, it shall invest that money in the local bank, where it becomes a loan anchor for citizens of the area. The business will advise, if possible, the bank at least 1 year in advance before demanding use of the money for themselves. The business shall not sell to anyone outside the area unless it is proved by the people directly affected in that city, etc. We built your business too, so says every employee. Therefore, we do have legally enforceable rights and benefits. Every tax shall in fact be dedicated to its purpose, or it shall not be collected, and it shall not be shared. A road tax, for instance, cannot under any circumstance be used for anything other than what is connected with the road, a bridge, etc. The governing of spending money in government shall then be explained to our employees by a percentage pie chart. The people decide the categories and they give the percentages of money of their taxes each of these categories shall receive. The government employees shall then ensure and investigate that our laws and our money spent did in fact do what we had intended it to do, without exception. Let all just, because they must. The existence of what is personally fair in society is subject to the following 5 declarations of life. 1. We are equals. That means your time is equal to my time, and my life is equal to your life. The only difference is in our decision or ability to participate in human harmony, peace, or happiness, our willingness to do so. 2. Freedom is personal freedom, and it shall not be questioned unless your freedom discards, destroys, jeopardizes, or impedes my freedom. Freedom is not always fair, but it is always equal as best it can. Liberty is the assertion of society that freedom must have rules and duty, or there will be chaos. Consequently, the foundation of freedom is given to be society has rights too. Therefore, the limits and boundaries of society may impose are roughly translated as if you want to do what does not distinctly hurt others or life or environment, but just yourself, then you will do so in this area, as is separate from us, that we have allowed or provided for that purpose. Healthcare means, this is for, I have a right to be treated equally with all others because I am alive. The social or economic contribution of an individual aside means you will contribute to your care as a percentage of what you have or do make. The hospitals, etc., will adjust accordingly. They can't just have whatever they want. With reasonable influence based upon what you did receive in terms of care. Healthcare is the right of every child regardless of payment. Healthcare, but that too is limited to not extreme cases. We just can't afford it, we like it or not. Healthcare is not the right of the dying or old, because life is about living, not for dying. There are limits. The children need your place. They deserve it. You had your time. They deserve theirs. And you have clearly taken more than you deserve, and then said to every child, be dead, we don't care. That was the choices you made. That's how we got in this position. 5 is limited capitalism means, by a vote, we the people shall decide for ourselves what the maximum amount of income shall be for any and all individuals, and what the least amount will be for any working individual per year. Capitalism means an individual can earn that money in a moment, but then they cannot earn another penny until a year goes by. Capitalism means we don't owe you welfare. We do owe you a fair and reasonable job that will make ends meet for you and is not slavery for anyone. Capitalism means the resources decide the reality. Today, that is limited by the understanding the future of every child is determined by the resources we take today, so they have rights too. Reuse, recycle, rebuild, etc. determines our reality. If not, you're stealing from a child in the future. The critical test of whether you can be a true democracy, protect yourselves from extreme experimentation, or govern yourselves as a world is determined by this simple fact. Are you willing to accept the truth? Only a tiny few people threaten you with what they do. In democracy, the outcry against governing ourselves, or true democracy, will be very small, because the nation can decide for itself, and a tiny few will not stand against millions. They will, however, try to wear you down with rules, delays, foreign languages, and every other intellectual trap man has devised throughout time. Simply don't let them. In democracy, it's over 300 million people in the United States against this tiny few, and we are the military. We are the courtroom. It's ours. It isn't theirs. It doesn't belong to a judge. It's ours. We are the wealth, because numbers are just numbers without working resource. They mean nothing. We are the law, because democracy proves we own this nation, therefore we decide, not our employees. In extreme experimentation, a few thousand people across this world represent these extreme threats of extinction or extermination from our planet against the entire 8 billion other people. They can't stop us. We can stop them. We are the world. This is ours. And they have no rights we do not allow as a world together. Because wrong is our lives, your children, everything gone forever. Nothing left. If you decide this is important, or if you cannot decide this is important, then your world ends. In terms of for governing a world by human law rather than leadership, the facts are simple. We are surrounded by threats so severe. Our extermination from this planet is inevitable and soon. Igniting sunfire on Earth means this planet lives or dies in that single instance of ignition. The entire planet lives or dies in that instant, because nobody can extinguish a fire 10 million degrees hot that burns atoms for fuel. Don't let them tell you different. This is how it is. Wrong by even the slightest, teeniest little bit means this Earth, this entire world itself is lost. Nature is being mutilated beyond repair, and the cost will be horrific. And there are 100 more severe realities which clearly spell out extinction for us all, and it can be easily enough found. Leadership has failed us. If we don't take control of this world for ourselves by law, can't do it by force, by law, then we die because you didn't care enough to accept that fact. Our world has changed. We are 8 billion people, and we are facing tremendous threats. And we literally cannot let any of them be wrong, because it means we're all dead. Even a world, even the future. We can't let them be wrong even a little bit, because life itself is depending upon us. You are important. Leader means they led us here to a place where we are surrounded by extreme threats. Bankruptcy. Our nature is being turned into chaos, and even this entire solar system is threatened, because another sun being ignited here changes everything for the solar system too. It's all up for destruction. Do you want to change, or do you want to continue? Answer the question. Accept change means you will accept the realities that are required of you and work for better, which means life comes first. In everything we do, life comes first, not last, not money first. Life comes first. It's not an issue for debate. Life comes first, realistically speaking. That doesn't mean for an individual, it means for a world, as best we can. Think about it. You have a brain, try to use it. Not kidding. It's important. You need to understand that genetic chaos is coming, as is consistent with Armageddon, which means nature in chaos. That is a choice university has made for us, and you let them. All-out war is coming. The current situations prove that, as is consistent with the apocalypse. A gun in every hand, every man for himself. Blood everywhere. The world is bankrupt and becoming insane. Insanity is the first decision into personal hell. You chose a bribe, and you didn't stop the reality of robbery by our leaders, which have a university diploma. Resource loss and devastation is a national hell coming. Trapped, lost, dead, with no options is what that means. The first reality proving hell for our whole world is loss of resources. We are about to run out of food. You're eating next year's crop from the ocean. The university is mutilating all the foods we eat, and there will be consequences. You are destroying water, discarded without a thought. Even consuming oxygen with fire for motors and all kinds of things that are past what this planet can provide. All of that is a free choice, because you can't stop us. You can't stop me. All of these choices are made by humanity, or your God, which is called university, and that means extinction. All realities of true threat are hidden by media, leaders, and others who are refusing to identify the critical costs of being wrong. Even in sunfire, which is atomic fire, which can burn our entire world, and we can't stop it. Thereby no investigation of facts or no relationship to the needs of 8 billion people exist. Each of us want food, need food, water, etc. every day of our lives. What could go wrong if we don't protect the things that we need? But hey, you got a gun, so there's no need to worry, right? Isn't that right? Take a look at Syria. All tragedies biblically predicted and clearly by the evidence already known are set to come true. Even the world on fire. Imagine that. Without human change, there is no hope. These threats are 99% human-induced. In other words, humanity is the cause, therefore the only solution as well. It is a choice. It is your child. It is your life lost, all because you didn't want to pay nothing. You are destroying every last thing we and the children need and depend upon for our survival. Because money, or numbers correctly spoken, rule this world. It is not life first. And that literally must change. Life must come first. To do that, communicate our need, investigate what happens when this goes wrong, examine the evidence with your own mind, question the decisions being made, and where does the reality of this choice come from. Change because we must, like it or not. This ain't no game. There are no second chances beyond the point of no return, such as igniting an atomic fire. Everything is fuel. It won't go out. Mass communication must be changed as well. No more letting the few decide for everyone. Like owning highways so that all the people can use it, we must own the broadcast networks and create open opportunities instead of closed doors. True democracy exists only through these three factors. The law as written by we the people, ourselves. This is about our lives and our society and our future. We must make the choice. We are required to obey it. Therefore we must make the law we going to obey ourselves. We the people control access to resources by controlling the means and methods from which all access arises. That affects our lives as a society, thereby allowing none to have all the power and refuse the rest. Justice requires opening the courtroom, removing any judge and any lawyer from practicing law or sitting on a bench if we deem that necessary by our vote. Instantly gone. No excuses. The purpose of a jury is to determine if justice was served, not if a rule was broken. If it was not good enough for you, then it ain't good enough for them. All those in powerful places will say, we can't, we won't, we don't, we refuse. But the truth of democracy is we, the people, own this nation. We, the people, have a legal right to determine the direction of our nation and its future. Legal redress of grievances, First Amendment, is the method and means for peaceful legal actions to determine by vote what our future and every other critical concern shall be. That too is your choice. It is not theirs. They are merely employees. As all individuals falling under the authority of the law, none are exempt, including our employees, as is the President, courts, etc. Supreme Court too, they're just employees. We the people shall decide. It's called democracy. True democracy is in the assembly of our own design, to participate in governing ourselves by creating the means to determine our own fate, even destiny, when truth can be found. We can choose by truth and predict the outcome. The foundation of that is not only constitutional law, which then governs all other law, but the enforcement of that law by hiring people to investigate major influences on society to ensure these are obeying the law that we have demanded shall be obeyed. That foundation includes redress of grievances, the critical courtroom of the people themselves, demanding of their own employees a true and accurate accounting, wherein no one is allowed to hide and everyone is subject to the law of our Constitution and what we, the people, declare our society shall be. We are the government, we are the owners, we are the final authority, no one else. We are the jury of our employees. Redress of grievances is the final step in confronting those who believe they are our rulers instead of our employees, as is the current case. The power of changing government is he who controls the gold or the money makes the rules, so says the saying. It is largely true, unless weapons have replaced money, as is the power of government. The military, however, is controlled by the soldier, and he is controlled by the threat. Therefore, a new soldier's Bill of Rights must be formed. No more kill or be killed. You have rights. It is also true, whosoever controls the communication of news controls the direction of the people by propagating anything they want, true or false. With these two things, governments arise, and they are brought down with or without weapons involved as well. The method and means are: find the truth, identify the reality, determine what happens if this goes wrong, and then you will know what needs to be changed. By vote, through an educational period, you will be able to define a new order, respect and responsibility for society itself. That is fundamental government, and lacks only the employees to get the job done. Their job is to investigate, examine, and determine if our decisions are carried out properly. They are not to make laws for us to keep, but to enforce and protect our law as society has decreed. Employees that do not lie, cheat, steal, corrupt the courts, or choose rebellion against us are fundamentally our right to discard and remove from government. They're not intended to be there. We have rights. They don't. They are employees. They have to obey the Constitution as we have decreed. Think about it.